Welcome everyone to a Prelude episode of Developer Dialogue. Before we publish this week's episode, which features the developers of Grand Tacticians, the Civil War 1861 to 1865, we decided to republish our original 2018 interview we did with this incredible developer. We hope you enjoy this interview, and be sure to come back tomorrow for the sequel interview. Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Strategy Wargamer. I'm Gene. I'm here with Ilja, the designer of the Civil War 1861 to 1865 by the developer, the Grand Tactician. And I also have Matt joining me, the historical gamer, for this interview. Welcome both of you guys. How are you guys doing?
Hi, nice to be here, and doing just fine.
Hey everybody, thanks again for joining us for the interview, Ilja, and look forward to talking about your upcoming game, the Civil War, or the Grand Tactician, the Civil War.
Yeah, this is really awesome because this game was just recently announced, and as soon as we saw it announced, we kind of just jumped all over it, and I made sure to the head guys of this development studio on the horn, because the website where you guys posted all your screenshots and all the details about this game look incredible. So I'm thank you for doing this, and hopefully we can find out more about this game. And I guess we'll just dive right into the interview.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about the company, the origin story of the Grand Tactician? Is this your first title? Where did you guys come from?
Basically the story starts with Oliver Keppelmüller, who is our coder. He created this game called The 7 Years' War alone, and it was released in 2015, late year. And when I found about the game, I was sort of blown away that something like this was created by one guy, and I contacted Oliver and offered to help. And after that, post-release, we improved the 7 Years' War game, and also, I helped to design one of the DLCs, the Pomeranian War, for that. So that's how we started up. And after the 7 Years' War, we sort of started thinking about if we should make some sort of sequel or continue developing games. And then we came up with the idea of Grand Tactician and teamed up. This was in 2016 in the summer. And the third guy in our company, who is Peter, he joined later, and he does the art in our game.
Okay, so the previous game is called The 7 Years' War, and both you guys helped design it. And is there any influences of that game in the current game that you're developing?
Yeah, of course, it's a sort of base for us. It has a lot of cool details and mechanics, the game, and we wanted to improve on that, but also to sort of create a completely new game. So we wouldn't call this 7 Years' War 2 or something like that, but it's a completely new game and a new engine and new design.
Yeah, I managed to play that game recently, and I was really kind of blown away with this game. And the reason being is I put it in my notes, was kind of like, if I feel like it's Rome Total War 2 meets Victoria. You know, it kind of combines both those elements, and I really did enjoy it. It's right now on Steam, so if anybody's interested, I would highly recommend to go pick up that game. It really, really impressed me on even just a level of detail where I can sign unit commanders and division commanders, change out weaponry. I thought that was really sick.
Yeah, and all this done by a single guy, so awesome as well.
Yeah. And what's interesting, how Paradox has entire teams making Victoria and Hearts of Iron. You had this one guy, and then you came in during the development process where two guys made this one game that rivals Victoria and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty sick.
Moving on a little bit, the 7 Years' War is really, I was kind of playing around with it over the last week or so, and I found it pretty interesting. But I'm curious, for your upcoming game, for the Grand Tactician, the American Civil War, how did you guys decide to do the Civil War? I mean, obviously it's, musketry, linear combat in the way that the 7 Years' War was, but the American Civil War is, a much, I don't know if I want to say narrower focus, but obviously it's the North versus the South in the United States. It's not this globe-spanning conflict in the same way. And, I'm just kind of curious how you guys made the decision that you wanted to cover the American Civil War.
It's a long dream of Oliver to do a Civil War game. The main inspiration comes from Ken Burns' documentaries, the movie Gettysburg, and of course Sid Meier's Gettysburg, the game. And it's something that's very interesting to all of us. And also from the designing point of view, it's I think it's better to design a game that has a bit more narrow scope than sort of global conflict. So it's been a long dream for Oliver and also for myself to create a game about the Civil War.
Awesome. So you mentioned Sid Meier's Gettysburg in there. Can you talk a little bit about how the Grand Tactician is going to play? I mean, is this a strategic and a tactical game, or just kind of maybe a 20,000-foot view if someone's never heard of the Grand Tactician, the American Civil War, and what's coming? What's your sort of initial elevator pitch before we dive into it?
Well, most people are, especially strategy gamers, they know Total War game series, for example. And if you look at our game, you would probably think that it's pretty similar. So it will have a sort of grand strategic layer where you play around in the campaign map, and then you zoom into the battles. A bit similar way as Total War, but I think our focus is a bit different. So we try to keep it a bit more realistic and also try to add some more depth into the game.
One question I did have was, in terms of like the actual strategic and the tactical combat, how does those two systems work together in tandem?
So the idea of the campaign layer is, of course, to generate these battles, and we try to add this sort of operational or grand tactical level to it. So when you move around your units or armies and corps on the map, a bit similar way that you would think, for example, in the Ageod title, when the armies meet, it will generate a battle from that situation. So the composition of the armies and where they are situated on the map and the direction they are arriving on the battlefield and the timing, all that is taken into account, and we're trying to achieve this sort of operational view on it.
Okay.
Of course, when the battle ends, everything that's happened on the battlefield will be coming back on the campaign side. Not only that you lose some troops and maybe lose some ground, but the battle will have a larger meaning. For example, for the nation morale and the ability to continue the campaign and waging war. So maybe even if you win a battle or get a sort of draw, it could mean that you need to anyway pull back and regroup. So we try to go a bit deeper there as well.
Okay, wow, that's pretty cool. Kind of curious in terms of like, how did you model the campaign of the American Civil War? Or do you have like start points from like 1861, 1863, 1865, like the final years? How did you guys model that?
Yeah, we're planning on having multiple scenarios with the different starting dates. So basically, you can dive in from the start of the war, or maybe a bit later when the situation has already developed into something historical.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like the end of the war. I always wanted to like, command a Confederate army in the last couple of weeks to see if I can like break out and try to meet up with Joe Johnston. So that's probably one thing I'm going to try out in your game.
Okay, sounds good.
So I think it's a really interesting idea, and I think you mentioned Ajod's title, which is more of a kind of strategy game where you don't actually fight the battles directly. You kind of move armies around, and then the engagements are simulated. And then you've got other games out there that are like Ultimate General or Scourge of War, where you fight the battle on the tactical map. So it's pretty clear here that you're going to be moving armies around on a strategic map of the United States, and correct me if I'm making invalid assumptions. And then the armies will meet, and then you'll fight a battle on a tactical battlefield, and those results will influence the sort of the strategic layer of things. Does that mean, and I know you guys are still in development, so if there are things you can't say, that's fine. But does that mean that you guys are going to be modeling other factors as well, like supply lines, politics? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're going to do a sort of full-fledged campaign. So not only moving armies like some sort of pieces on a map, but for example, as you mentioned, there will be stimulation for supplies and also some sort of political and economical side for the campaign. If you have played around with the 7 Years' War, there's a lot of these elements also in that campaign. So we are trying to improve those for the Grand Tactician.
And the battles being resolved, are those being fought in real time, or is the campaign map being fought in real time? Is this, I know the actual website, you do say that it's a real time campaign. I'm just wondering if that's any different between the strategic layer and the battlefield layer.
Yeah, both layers will be played in real time, and yes, the tactical battles will be real time and fought on the actual battlefield.
You were mentioning that the website was mentioning that there's supply lines, blockade running, real-time campaigning. Does that mean that there's going to be like a grand strategy map? And if so, how large would that, is it going to encompass parts of Europe? How deeper into the West does it also go?
The campaign map is not yet implemented, but we are going to have all the American Civil War theaters, the Eastern and the Western there. So, and of course, the European nations will play a role, not as a sort of playable maps where you can move your troops around, but they will influence the Civil War nevertheless.
Okay, great. In terms of when you're fighting on the tactical map, does the terrain as well as weather have an impact? Because obviously in the Civil War or any type of combat, both those factors are key in battle.
About the use of terrain, yes, correct. So we do have weather simulated, and it will play a role in the battle. And terrain, if you compare to other similar games, I think we have sort of more connection with the terrain. So there will be, for example, fences and walls that can be used as cover for the troops, and they will automatically deploy on these features. Same goes with the heights. So basically, when you order the troops to take a high ground, they will find the best position there. So also the elevation on the tactical map. If you're on the high ground, you can of course see better, and you can, for example, reach farther with your artillery and stuff like that.
Okay, so I can get like a Fredericksburg thing kind of going on there, right? So I could put guys behind a wall, and maybe like the Union can try to charge it and such.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty awesome. Get the old 6th 9th Infantry up in there.
Yes.
So that's pretty awesome. I guess since we asked the weather question, tactical combat, will there be seasons in the game?
Yes.
Okay. Nice. So we'll get a weather and kind of like a summer, and I'm assuming there'll be penalties and stuff like that regarding them.
Yeah, there will be. In the, for example, troop movement and fatigue on the troops, stuff like that. And also very nice little details, such as if it's very dry weather, there will be a lot of dust and smoke that lingers on the battlefield, so it will also make it harder to see for the troops.
Okay, so would it be harder to see for us or for the actual troops? So for example, if troops are in combat and there's smoke all around them, would they accidentally not be able to hit the enemy?
Yeah, they will be having a hard time hitting the enemy. So,
wow,
firing into smoke and not seeing much.
Wow, that's really awesome. I mean, because that's an incredible historical aspect. I don't think any games that I know of that do that, where they instill in that type of fog of war.
Yeah, thinking about it, I can't find many, at least real-time games where that has been taken into account. So we think it's a cool little feature that has already been implemented. So
factoring in, effectiveness on the battlefield and how smoke and height and terrain, those all play a role in combat. I think I saw in some of your screenshots, it looks like there's different types of armaments as well for the different units.
Yeah.
So will I have to make, will I have to make decisions around how I equip those troops, or are they just going to kind of be self-equipped based on, I don't know, some factors, or like is there this whole sort of background logistical piece that I have to manage as well as a general?
For the battles themselves, for example, historical battles, you can play. These are preset for the weapons, so you cannot change them. But on the campaign layer, the idea is that you will have some sort of supply of weapons, certain types, and you can, of course, manufacture those or buy from other countries, and then you will equip your troops with these weapons. And in the Civil War, there was, for example, for the South, the lack of sort of industry to build these weapons was one of the key issues, for example, why they had inferior weapons if you compare it to the North. So that's something we are trying to achieve here as well.
That's pretty cool. That reminds me of this old, I think, 1990s game that I'm thinking of called The American Civil War, Fort Sumter to Appomattox. And I think one of my favorite things there is the Confederates was trying to like race ships in and out of the blockade so I could import weapons, so I was able to equip my troops with, effective weaponry.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
That's really exciting to hear. Can you talk, you're mentioning the historical battles as well, so if I don't want to play a campaign, then I'll just be able to play tactical historical battles as well?
Yes, that's correct.
One question that I wanted to ask is, in terms of the order of battle, will I be able to kind of like assign like Stonewall Jackson to command a division or a corps or even his own army? How much like leeway do we have in terms of assigning commanders to the order of battle?
Yeah, that's a campaign feature. So during the campaign, you will have a large number of the historical commanders available, and they will also advance and develop during the game. So basically, you can assign your commanders to any posts you like. Of course, there's a requirement that they have high enough rank or enough experience for that job. But anyway, you will manage the sort of officer corps and assign them to command, and also you can influence the order of battle. For example, where the brigades, in which divisions they are, and throw division from a corps to corps and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So like the smallest unit team would be a division or a brigade?
The engine at the moment, it's quite flexible, so it can handle a lot of levels. But as you can see from the screenshots we have added on the website, the main unit is infantry brigade. That's at the moment the level we're using.
And you also mentioned that, like, on the website, that you're going to incorporate battle footage from the Lionheart Filmworks, which is a really awesome film publisher because they have some really incredible films.
That's true.
So I was kind of curious how you plan to include this into the game. Is it going to be kind of like a Civil War Generals 2 kind of thing where, like, you two brigades clash and then there's going to be like a little mini movie and then the results?
It will not be like that. So, for example, during combat, if you have played a game called Cossacks 2, I think they incorporated some sort of a Napoleonic reenactment footage. So, for example, when you changed formation and stuff like that, it showed a sort of little screen with the video. We're not going that way, but we are going to use the video to carry the story in the campaign. So, sort of cutscenes and background stuff.
And that all takes place outside of the tactical battlefield, so it's on the strategic map?
Yeah, on the tactical battlefields, you will not, during the fighting, you will not see these small snippets of, for example, a unit firing or stuff like that.
Going back to the tactical map, how does a player win the battle? Like, are there going to be, when a battle launches, are there going to be assigned objectives that I need to take?
Yeah, on the battlefield, you will have a number of objectives, of course. And I think difference to other, or at least most other games, is that you most likely will not have your whole army or all your troops starting the battle on the battle map, but we have this entry point system where they could be called, for example, lines of operations. So you will receive reinforcements, the troops that are marching to the battle, and these troops arrive via these entry points, and these entry points can also be captured, so it will prevent that line of operation from the enemy. So basically the troop needs to be diverted, and this takes time again. But so there will be objectives which you need to take, then there will be these entry points, and of course there will be the sort of morale and casualty factor. So if you beat the enemy army bad enough and their morale will will break, then of course it will win the battle for you even without taking all the battlefield objectives.
Oh, okay, nice. I love that.
So one of the things that I think is interesting on the website and the feature list is it's talking about the morale of your citizens at home, the morale of your troops. So as a battle, as you win a battle or lose a battle and your morale for your troops drops, do those units' morale carry over fight to fight or throughout the course of the campaign? And or is that sort of your morale is whatever it is as you enter a battle and then it's kind of thrown out at the end of a fight?
It will be sort of carryover from campaign to battles and battles to campaigns. So it should be a major factor, and not only the morale of the troops, of course, but also the home front, which is of course supporting. And if the morale goes down, you could assume that, for example, it's harder to get volunteers to fight for your cause and stuff like that.
So we can do the South Scream basically, like Sherman did. Or howl, I think. I think he used the word, we'll make the South howl or something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, nice.
There are sort of key points for us that the campaign side should not be just something to get your battles running and to win the war by simply steamrolling the other side and winning a lot of small battles. But we like to integrate this into sort of operational or grand tactical, like they said at the time, situation where not only the battles count, but also the strategic side. So basically, you could win the war without winning all the battles or taking all the all the states from the other guy, because that's how the real wars work as well.
Yeah, hearing you talk about it's kind of making me think. I'm actually in the middle of reading A Silence at Appomattox by Bruce Canton, and it's kind of making me think to the passages in there where it's talking about the army and how it changes over time, and the influx of draftees causes the overall quality to drop, but then also the Wilderness wasn't a tactical victory by the Union whatsoever, but morale increases because they decide to continue fighting afterwards. So it's just hearing you talk about as the campaign unfolds is really interesting, and I'm excited to see how you guys will kind of have that play out. And I think that is one of the most unique pieces that you're talking about is just that interaction between the campaign and the battlefield, because so many Civil War games either cover the tactical side or they cover the strategic side, but there really aren't many, certainly not recently, Civil War games that kind of do both.
Yeah, we fully agree with that, because that's the reason we are doing this game. It would be, I think, foolish to try to challenge a game like Ultimate General alone in that field, or for example on a campaign map, the AGO titles. But I think this is something that hasn't been done recently, and I think this will make our game unique.
Yeah, I'm thinking back. I think there were a couple way back, like in the 90s, either like the Blue and the Gray, or there's an Empire Civil War game that kind of had that. But we're talking like early Windows days, no real sprite animations or anything like that.
Yeah, good old days.
One question, since we were talking about the campaign, I wanted to dive into naval battles, because naval battles are a key element of the Civil War because of the Anaconda Plan. How will the game handle naval battles and the Anaconda Plan?
The naval combat will be on the campaign layer, and it will be sort of auto-resolved along with time, a bit similar way as there's the 7 Years' War handles it. So we will not have sort of like in Empire Total War complete layer for naval combat. These naval battles will of course allow you to blockade and to move troops and stuff like that. So the Anaconda plan is something that you can actually try in the campaign to achieve what you're trying as the North. And why not as the South if you have the ships to do it?
In terms of the strategic map, kind of curious, I know you were mentioning the tactical combat is real time. In the strategic map, is it, how does that work? Is it like daily? Is it weekly, monthly?
It will be real time as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because we think that if we go to, for example, WeGo or turn-based, it will simplify the operational side a bit too much. So it will make things a bit too easy on one side and unrealistic on the other side. So when we are talking about real time, I would like to make sure that the listener understands that the real time we are using is more close to the actual real time than what you think about real time games usually. So it will be quite slow paced game. You can accelerate the time, you can pause the time, and you will not be in a hurry sort of doing the decisions on the campaign map. But when you get your troops moving, it will happen in real time. So there will be the need to actual coordination. That is one of the key factors of the battles that time. And usually that was the thing that switched the balance from side to side, because the other side didn't fully get their troops into this battle like they wanted, and the other side gets sort of advantage for a short period of time, stuff like that.
So we were talking about the naval combat and Anaconda plan. Is there a possibility that like England or France gets involved in the war and we have a much more greater naval threat there?
Yes, that's one possibility, like it historically was.
Okay, nice. I really love that. And there's also, considering that that's the Navy aspect, I'm assuming there's a possibility that if I'm playing the Union there might be a couple of British armies coming from the north.
Yeah. This is not fully implemented yet or sort of fully fleshed out yet, but that's one of the points we also reveal on the website, that yes, there will be a possibility that the foreign powers from Europe get involved. And yes, we want to also bring this to the campaign map and also possibly even to the battle maps.
You just want to try and burn Washington down again, don't you, Jane?
Redo an 1815.
Yeah.
Oh, the biggest one that we might have covered it, but supply lines. I know supply is huge in the American Civil War because Jackson was a big fanatic of, cutting the supply lines, and, you could bring a larger army to its knees, and he did that repeatedly. Is there a possibility that I can sever or cut off, or how does the supply system work?
I won't go too much into the details, but the idea is that, of course, the armies will require a huge amount of both food and, of course, ammunition. And this is carried to the armies using these supply routes from depots. And also the armies will carry their own supplies in supply trains. So basically, yes, the supply system of the enemy will be, of course, a possible target for your countermeasures.
Oh, wow.
On the campaign map.
I would love to actually try to implement a strategy like that, which would be cool.
Well, you can do that, and then your opponent will maybe forage or whatnot and just march through the south anyway.
It sounds like you're already countering my moves there.
Speaking of that, do you guys have any ambitions for any kind of multiplayer for this game, or is it going to be principally a single-player game?
Yeah. Sorry about that. A bit under the weather at the moment, but yeah, we are doing this currently as a single-player game. We have discussed about the multiplayer possibility, but this will not be possible at the release. So maybe sometimes afterwards, because first of all, we don't have any experience in making a multiplayer game, and of course, a game of this scope, turning it into a multiplayer game, it will have a lot of stuff to do. You can take, for example, a look at how it worked out for Total War. When they first implemented multiplayer, it was not sort of an easy task for them either. And if you compare to us, a couple of guys doing this independently, so you have to think about the resources as well. But that being said, multiplayer would be something that we would be interested in doing, but not for the release.
Okay, awesome.
You were mentioning that before that there's going to be there's a possibility of European intervention. In terms of victories, is it possible, like if I'm, let's say, playing the South, that there are different paths to victory, whether that be political European intervention or me just conquering Washington, D.C.? Are there different paths, or do I have to destroy his Union army?
Yeah, you will have different paths to the victory, possibly not in a similar way as you would think, for example, in a game like Civilization, where you have the science victories and political victories, stuff like that. So for example, winning the war by not having the war at all will not be in our scope. But yeah, during the war there will be possibilities to win it differently.
Wow. I guess that's all my questions for the campaign and battles. Matt, do you have any ones that you want to add in?
No, I mean, and I'm not certainly going to hold you to this. Do you guys have any ideas when we should expect this? Is this 2018, 2019, 2020? Or I figure you guys have some sense given you announced the game, but I'm just kind of curious when we're going to be able to dive into this.
Yeah, we are aiming for 2019. So,
okay. Put on your wish list
there. A lot of work from our side, but that's what we're trying.
Awesome.
Since we're talking about release date and such, I wanted to ask, you guys are selling through Steam. Are there any alternate channels that you're going to pursue besides Steam?
Yeah, currently we are planning on releasing on Steam, and the other platforms, we haven't looked into those yet. So not planned at this moment. For example, what Steam delivers pretty well is the sort of update platform, so the game is always up to date. And we're also planning on adding more stuff to the game post-release, so Steam will be very good for that. But I'm not ruling out other platforms, but those are not planned in yet.
In terms of like platforms, do you guys? I know you're going to probably do Windows PC. This is probably where you guys primary your focus is going to be. But do you see platforms like possibly Mac, Linux, or even like the mobile platforms like iOS and Android? Because I know the historical gamer gets on me for this all the time. But I love playing gaming on my iPad or iPhone.
Yeah, we have nothing planned there yet, but currently we're developing it for PC and Windows. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, Ilja, thanks for spending some time with us to answer some questions. Is there anything we didn't ask that we should have that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think we've covered all those. Something I think is something we're trying to achieve with our game is to sort of deliver the story of the war. So it's for us, it's not only about creating an engine to play out battles or move troops around on the map, but we also try to achieve the sort of Civil War feel. And for that, we're using, for example, the Lionheart Filmworks videos, very, very high quality videos to sort of show what the Civil War would have looked like. And also we have original soundtrack coming, and we're trying to use a lot of sort of historical references on the art of the game. So that's something that we're trying to incorporate into the game, and not only in the looks and feel, but also how the game will play. For example, the campaign. And that's something that's important for us because, for example, if you watch the Ken Burns documentary, it's the storyline there it's very well done, and it's sort of sucks you into the Civil War like no other document does. So that's something what we are interested in.
Is there a possibility in the future, since you're mentioning 2019 as a possible release date, that there might be a possible Kickstarter? Could that be a possibility?
Yeah, I think quite many people has already asked about, for example, if we do a Kickstarter or stuff like that. But currently we don't have anything like that planned. I think from our point of view, most sort of big issue for us is the time, because we all have our day jobs and families, so it's a lack of time we're fighting against mostly.
Yeah, because I would really love to get in on a Kickstarter and see what, little knickknacks that you add in, maybe like a historical figure of Lee or something. I don't know, anything. I'm big into Kickstarters.
Yeah.
Well, Ilja,
that's a possibility later, but we haven't discussed anything about this yet.
Okay, cool.
All right. Ilja, I want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing information about your upcoming game. I know we're all looking forward to learning more and seeing more as you guys move down the development path. Is there anywhere that you want us to direct anyone when, anyone who's listening and is interested in learning more? Where should they go?
I think the website should be a good place to go, and there especially the dispatches section, which is basically our developers blog, and we will add details of the game as it develops, and we try to be quite open about the information we are giving, so sort of give interesting information for anyone who is interested in the game or in the era of the Civil War.
Okay, awesome. So that's www.grandtactician.com. And the dispatches section is kind of where you would direct people to go to learn a little bit more. Looks like you guys have some FAQs in there, as well as almost like a kind of a dev blog type of a deal, which I'm assuming will actually, you've already got quite a few entries in here, but it looks like you enter entries pretty frequently in there.
Yeah, we have been trying to do at least a monthly update on there, and always revealing something new about the game that hopefully is interesting for the possible gamers in the future.
Awesome. Well, we'll put the link to the site in the description of the podcast, and I want to thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was my pleasure, and very nice to see people interested about our coming game.
Yeah, there was actually I posted sort of a video when I saw that you guys had announced the game, and it got quite a bit of traction. So I think there's a lot of interest. I think the fact that you guys are kind of trying to merge the strategic and tactical side is, as you've called out and I've mentioned, I think it's unique, and I think it's something that a lot of people are looking forward to.
Yeah, hopefully that's the plan.
Awesome. Thanks for everyone joining us, and I'm going to head back and we'll catch you guys on the other side.